Like I said, it might just take one email, one interesting subject line to just bring them right back to you.
Hey, podcast listener, you're about to discover insider tips, tricks, and secrets to making more sales and converting more prospects into customers with email marketing. For more information about the Email Marketing Podcast or the Autoresponder Guy, go to dropdeadcopy.com/podcast. Hey everybody, it's John McIntyre here, the Autoresponder Guy, and it's time for episode 7 of the Email Marketing Podcast, where we talk about the top tips, tricks, and secrets for making more sales and growing your revenue with email marketing. Today, I'll be talking to Derek Johansson, and you'll discover the 3 ways to grow a business. Now, if you're like most people, you probably focus on only one of these ways, traffic generation, and this vastly limits your potential. Now, traffic is important, but it's not the secret sauce, okay? Find out from Derek the 3 ways to grow your business exponentially with the marvelous power of email marketing and applying some kind of old school marketing techniques, which you'll find out in just a moment. To get the show notes for this episode of the Email Marketing Podcast, go to dropdeadcopy.com/EP7. Now, the sound quality is a little off for this episode. I'm not sure what happened there, but I've tweaked it with effects to make it as listenable as possible. Now, before we get into that, I have another 5-star review to share with you. This one is from Zen Nerd from the US of A. Here it is. 5 stars. John knows his stuff. John knows how to email. You do not. Listen to him to learn how to do it right. If for no other reason than if he can do it, so can you. Seriously, he's cracked the code and he's doling out bite-sized bits for our mental nourishment. Listen to this, man. Thanks to Zen Nerd for the review. To leave a review and get a plug on this episode, head over to dropdeadcopy.com/podcast and follow the links to review the podcast. Don't forget to add your review and I'll link to your site from the show notes and maybe you get a bit of traffic out of it. I really appreciate the reviews, guys. Thanks again to Zen Nerd. Now, that's it for now. Let's go talk to Derek Johansson and find out the 3 ways to grow a business. It's John McIntyre here, the Autoresponder Guy. I'm here with Derek Johansson. Derek created Copy Hour, a course that teaches people how to write copy by handwriting sales letters out. So what people do is they get an old school sales letter that has made millions of dollars. They bring it up on their computer and they get a pen and they write the sales letter out by hand. It's completely crazy, but it works. It's kind of how I became a copywriter, and now I'm living in Thailand and doing all sorts of stuff. It really works. So Derek, how are you going today?
Things are good. Thanks for having me on, John.
Come on. Thanks for being here. Now let's begin. Who are you and what do you do?
Who am I and what I do? Well, I guess in the context of this conversation, I am a marketing consultant, mainly online marketing consultant, and I help small business owners increase their profits. Pretty much, simple as that. So I work with kind of a small amount of clients and just handle their online marketing stuff. And then I also have a Copy Hour, as we mentioned. And I developed Copy Hour to help me help other business owners, just increase conversions. That's what copy does.
Learn how to sell.
That's my story.
Cool, man. So we talked a bit about this before we just hit the record button. And today we're going to talk about the 3 ways to grow a business. And there are only, as far as if I've understood you correctly, there are only 3 ways to grow a business. So tell us a bit about this big picture concept, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty details.
Yeah, this is Jay Abraham's concept. And I don't know if he was the originator of it, but he's at least the one that has kind of brought it to everybody's mind. If you don't know who Jay Abraham is, I suggest that you go to his site. It's abraham.com, and he has got a ton of free stuff for business owners. But basically, there's a concept of his that's called 3 ways to grow a business. And within the 3 ways, there are just hundreds of smaller tactical steps that you can take. But the overall picture is basically there are 3 ways. So the first way is to increase your number of customers or clients, pretty straightforward. And you can do this by increasing the number of leads or just increasing your conversion rate. The second way is to increase the value of the transaction. So in some business owners' case, that might just be raising your price. And then the third way is increase the frequency of purchase. So the number of times that customer buys from you over the life of that client or the life of your business. And that's it. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it's pretty simple. And I remember when I first heard about this, it kind of blows your mind because it's totally logical. Yet it's so simple and straightforward, and it makes it really easy to take action because you can look at this and kind of say, well, we can work in one or two or three of all of these areas at once. And if we increase conversions in just one of those areas, we're going to get more sales. If we increase conversions in each one of them, it's going to exponentially increase. 10% in each area will add up to, 33 or maybe even 40 or 50% increase.
Yeah, I mean, it's just about keeping things simple, really. It's just a way to look at all the different tactical things that you're doing within your business and kind of lump them into different sections. So if I'm, doing advertising, pay-per-click type stuff, that falls into increasing the number of leads. And then you think, okay, if I work on my copywriting or I hire a copywriter, then that's going to increase my conversion rate, hopefully. And then stuff as simple as number 2 and 3, just like raising your prices and then also increasing the frequency of purchase or just raising the customer lifetime value. That type of stuff is the stuff that most business owners overlook. So they spend just a ton of time trying to increase leads and trying to increase their conversion rate. Mainly most business owners are just like spend all their time trying to increase the number of leads, and they don't focus on conversion rates actually. But so if you think about the business in this way, it just simplifies things, like just down to the basics.
Absolutely. And when you put this into the context of the internet, most people start a business and it's always about, well, I'm going to get SEO. I'm going to, rank my site in the search engines. I'm going to use pay-per-click or any sort of ad network. And very few people do this. They're always about increasing the number of customers, clients, which is essentially, how can I get more traffic to my website? I just want more traffic. But what you're saying here is that instead of just focusing on more traffic, worry more about or focus more on how to increase, number 2, which is increase the value of each transaction. So raise your price. And number 3, increase the frequency of purchase. So just make people buy more often.
Exactly. And this kind of all ties into the email autoresponder stuff and email marketing in general, because with email marketing, you can focus on, parts 2 and 3. You can, with education, with sending people stuff over and over again via email, you can increase their level of knowledge, and you can also kind of justify raising your prices in a certain way. And then obviously following up with people continuously via email allows you to be in their face more often and increase the likelihood that they'll purchase again from you. Or even, something you can send them off to affiliate offers more easily, and partner offers with email marketing.
So let's talk about email marketing and how that works in the context of each point here. So number 1 is to increase the number of clients or customers. And, you can do this by increasing the amount of leads or traffic you're bringing in the door, or the amount of leads that you're converting from, prospect to customer. So how does email fit into this? How would you tweak, number 1, how would you optimize it using email?
How would I optimize getting leads, you mean?
Yeah, either one.
Okay. Obviously you can do all kinds of stuff like, just simply putting an opt-in on your site, giving away a free course on some topic related to whatever your business is. So that's a way to get more leads in the door, getting people going through some sort of email autoresponder. And it's a great way to vet people. So you put them through a course of some sort before you try to sell them anything. And in that way, you can, like I said before, you can kind of build up their knowledge, and you can justify higher prices when people are more knowledgeable about your product and the benefits that it can provide to them. So a great way to obviously increase leads then is to, like I said, make a course, throw an opt-in on your site, gets more people in the door. And, what I've found across pretty much every business that I've worked with is selling through email, or at least having that email in place where you're getting back in their face every day and sending them off to your offers. It tends to increase conversion rates, and it can be pretty dramatic, actually. So that just fits right into that first part of growing a business. So you can increase the amount of people that are coming into your world. You can vet them. In other words, you can have more qualified people in that autoresponder series before they actually see your offers. And then the conversion rates typically go up with email.
Okay, so step one, if we were to turn this into an action plan, step one is to, make sure you're getting enough traffic to your website. And also at the same time, make sure that you're setting up systems to convert this traffic, these prospects, into customers. And that's where the email comes in, you add an opt-in form and you start getting people onto the list with a free course or daily emails or tips or something, some way of getting them interested enough to sign up. So that's step number one. So step number two, increase the value of transaction, raise your price. So how are we going to do that with email?
Well, I think as I've said a couple of times now, I think it's just it literally education is the best way to raise your prices. When somebody understands the benefits of what you have, they're more likely to lay down their money and lay down more of it.
Give me some examples.
Some examples of that. Well, I mean, I was dealing with a prospect, I guess. I was dealing with a lead to end up using my services. And I had very limited exposure with this guy, about a 30-minute phone call. We talked about what he was looking for in his business. He's selling a book and he's looking to create a course. Or he has a course and he has a book and a course. The course is just completed and now he's trying to get like a marketing funnel, get his business going. So I talked to him for about 30 minutes. He came through a referral to me, and basically I only had about 30 minutes on the phone call with this guy. And so for me, I couldn't really necessarily build up my value enough in this case. And when I sent him a proposal, it was like a shock to him, the prices that I was going to charge. Now, if somebody has gone through some of my other funnels, like going through Copy Hour, and have seen what I can do, and they've been exposed to me over a long period of time, and then they come to me and we have a talk about what I can do for them, and then I lay down the proposal, it's a much different story, because over time I've been able to educate them on what I can do for them. So if somebody's listening to this podcast and now they say, okay, I want to work with Derek, or I want to talk to Derek, and we do, we have like a 20-minute call on this podcast, and then we go and have a 30-minute conversation, that's still probably not enough. There's got to be a little bit more exposure. So I typically try to put people into kind of a funnel. And a lot of times that funnel is now starting with this Copy Hour course that I have. Does that make sense what I said?
Totally. Okay. The thing that really shines through is this need that email is really just about relationships. And if people think about it that way, it's really not that complicated. And the way I frame it up is that, when you meet someone, let's say you meet them at a bar or at a sporting event or somewhere, you meet a friend and you get their number. Now, if you call that person once, you're not really going to be very good friends in a week's time. But if you call them up each week, like, hey man, let's go out, let's grab a beer. And then, a week later, like, hey, let's go grab some coffee. I'm hungry. I want to get some lunch too. And you do this every week or two. What you're going to have is a very strong relationship. And then when it comes time that you need something, maybe you're sick, you need someone to go and, get something for you, or maybe you need some help. You're going to be able to call this guy up or girl and say, hey man, I need some help. I need a favor. Can you do this for me? And the reason that's going to work after all that time you put into building that relationship, and this is kind of kindergarten stuff. This is very straightforward. They're going to do it. And it's the same thing with email. When someone has built a relationship with you, even if it's only via email, they're far more likely to, give you their hard-earned money because they think, wow, I know Derek. I know this guy. He's cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. It's like the dating analogy where it's like, you don't try and stick it in without going on the date. There's some analogy in there, but you know what I mean.
I know. Yeah. Exactly. It's kind of like don't sleep with your opt-ins on the first date. Just like second base or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, man. So we settled that. So autoresponders are fantastic for doing this relationship stuff and increasing the transactions. Mm-hmm. Give me an example. I think you've been doing some of this stuff with Copy Hour and some other products you've been doing.
Yeah. Okay. So increasing the amount of times that the customer buys from you. So increasing the number of transactions. For me, I send people to Copy Hour first. They go through the program. And then I have a membership site on the back end of that. It's called The Cartel. And it's basically for freelance copywriters. I found an expert, one of our friends, Ed Stapleton Jr., John, who you know. Yeah. And he helped me create some content for freelance copywriters because there are quite a few freelance copywriters that go through my course. So after they've gone through the process of going through Copy Hour, they are sent basically the ability to buy into the cartel, which is a membership, a monthly membership. And I had I think I'm over 10% at this point of the people that have gone through Copy Hour have bought. So it's just another way to email autoresponders, because basically Copy Hour is delivered over time. It's 60 days, actually 10 weeks of autoresponders. So, I'm staying in front of these people's faces, and then I don't even have a sales letter. I do now, but when I first launched the cartel, I didn't have a sales letter. I just sent an email that said, "Hey, do you want to join this?" Right. And that's kind of the power of autoresponders. But basically, yeah, you can increase the number of transactions coming back into your own business. But then you can also, if you're staying in front of people via an autoresponder or email marketing, whatever, it doesn't have to be an autoresponder. You can also tell them about affiliated products. I mean, for information marketing, it's great because you can bring up other products, other launches that are going on in your industry. So there's all different kinds of ways. If you're staying in front of people after they've bought from you with email marketing, you can naturally recommend other products and just get people back into your world or send them off to other people's world. And that's still a transaction for you because you're making money when they buy an affiliated product.
Yeah. So that comes back to the 3 ways to grow a business is that's number 3, increase the frequency of purchase, just make them buy more stuff. Mm-hmm. And I think a good way to think about it is if you've got the attention of all these people who are interested in copywriting, there's a good chance they're going to be interested in freelancing stuff, email stuff, all sorts of things related to that, because what you have is not copywriters, you have the attention of a demographic who are going to be interested in a range of products. And it's in your best interest and their best interest for you to find relevant offers and give it to them. You make money and they get their problem solved.
Yeah, exactly. So
let's talk about attention. So like we just were, attention is huge, but we have this thing called guru burn. Tell us about that.
Guru burn. It's definitely more prevalent in the info marketing world. But basically, you tend to get sick of the guru, not necessarily sick of him, but you tend to forget about your guru after a certain period of time. And it happens to everybody. So I call it guru burn because you kind of you hop around from one guru to the next. But what I've noticed with myself is that when I stay, I'm still on these people's lists, my gurus. And I tend to follow a lot of different business gurus just because I'm fascinated with business and I'm helping other businesses. So I need to stay up on my game. But basically, I can get an email. I'll get an email from one of these guys. I'm on everybody's list. I'll get an email in my inbox and I'll scan through it. And it might just take one email from one of these guys, one email subject line that stops me. I read the email and I'm back in this guy's world again. I'm back in my guru's world. So I think it's extremely important to focus on attention, and something that you can do is model kind of the news. Like there's new stuff happening all the time. And maybe, after a period of months, people kind of start to get sick of you. But a lot of times, if people are on your list by choice, they will stay there for a long time without unsubscribing. And it might, like I said, it might just take one email, one interesting subject line to just bring them right back to you.
Right. Okay.
So, a big thing a lot of people do is they'll do a month's worth of follow-up, or they'll do like 2 or 3 newsletters or something to their customer list. And they say, this isn't working, or, they just get lazy and they don't do it. And you're missing out, because it might be a year, 2 years before somebody's like, okay, I'm back in your world.
Right. Okay. So what about, we're avoiding this guru burn. So we're going to maintain their attention. When it comes to content, I've heard a lot of people say stories are the big thing to do. What's your take on stories, and how do you come up with stories to sell?
I think that stories are huge, and I think you can be using stories in whatever business that you're in. So if you have an e-commerce store selling basketballs, or if you're selling a business course or whatever you're selling, you can use stories to sell your products. And it's one of those things. There's a book, it's called Made to Stick, that I think everybody should read as well.
Okay.
But it's basically, people remember stories much more than they remember arguments of fact and figures. So if you tell somebody stop smoking because you're 75% more likely to die if you smoke, that's going to be a weak argument in comparison to like, I could tell a story about how my grandmother died at the age of 55, something along the, don't laugh, John. No, but like, something along those lines. So stories are much more powerful. You have the Bible. Obviously, the Bible's been around for a while. Jesus has sold tons of books. And it's because of the stories. Right. So stories tend to persuade more than facts.
Absolutely. I mean, I read a really interesting example recently. I can't remember where I saw it, but it was about when Top Gun, the movie, came out. Navy recruitment went through the roof, and the sunglasses that Tom Cruise wore, I think the aviators, the sales skyrocketed. And I reckon that's just amazing. There was no call to action. There was no copy. There was no, long copy ads or anything. There was just a story, and people buy into the story, and then they want to identify with it. And I think that's just a great example that, if you're a good storyteller, you don't need to be the best copywriter. You just need to tell good, compelling stories that get people to take action.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing about stories as well is that you can tell random stories in your emails. If you sit down and you're like, well, I don't have any real stories to tell, you can tell what seems to be a random story as long as that core message and like the lesson or the takeaway of that story is in line with your goal, which is usually to sell something. So that's something to keep in mind. You don't want to necessarily get overwhelmed with the idea of having to come up with stories all the time, because stories are everywhere, and you can kind of grab from your own life. Maybe you were in the checkout line and somebody said something that was interesting that happened, and it's like a lesson in price justification or a lesson in something else. Right. So you can tell a random story as long as the takeaway from that story is, something that is going to stick with that person and eventually persuade them to buy something.
Cool, man. We're just coming up to time, so we do have to wrap it up. So just to summarize the whole thing, so we're talking about there are only 3 ways to grow a business. From Jay Abraham. Number 1, increase the number of customers or clients. Now you can do this by increasing the number of leads or the conversion rate. Number 2, increase the value of each transaction. So raise your price, sell bigger products, so on. And number 3, increase the frequency of purchase or the number of times they buy. And so the idea with autoresponders is when we plug this in, we build a relationship and we can grow all these 3 areas so we can create an exponential increase in the revenue or profit in the business.
Exactly. Well said.
Cool. All right, man. Well, before we go, give yourself a plug, tell people where they can find you, and then we'll say goodbye.
Let's stay in line with this conversation and just go to copyhour.com and start the process there. Jump into my funnel, and maybe we'll talk down the line.
Write out some sales letters by hand, and it works.
It does. It's crazy.
All right, man. Thank you. Thanks for coming on the show, Derek.
Thank you very much.
Hey everybody, thanks for listening. If you want to discover more insider tips, tricks, and secrets about driving sales with email marketing, sign up for daily email tips from the Autoresponder Guy. Go to dropdeadcopy.com/podcast. Sign up, confirm your email address, and I'll send you daily emails on how to improve your email marketing and make more sales via email. You'll find out why open rates don't matter and the 7-letter word that underlies all effective marketing and much more.